right, or the yield was wrong, cool strawberries. It took us a really long time to land firm on the Maui Gold variety of pineapple, and when we did, we moved our whole operation up here. So initially, in our infancy, we were actually in this teeny tiny boiling hot cannery, and once we landed firm on the Maui Gold variety of pineapple, we moved the whole operation up here to Hali'imaile to keep it all right here in the family. And this is where we get our name. 3 years into the process, that original master distiller is like losing his mind. He finally lands firm on the Maui Gold variety of pineapple, and he scribbles POW out onto a post-it note. POW is the Hawaiian word for done. It means to be finished, to be complete. And so he was saying done on the project, finished, complete. He took a much-deserved break and disappeared on us for like a week. And when he came back, he passed that original bottle around with a couple of coworkers. We call that quality control. The rest of us would call that like day drinking at work. So it just depends on your philosophy there. But they decide that POW is POW. The recipe is done. It's finished. It's complete. They also decide that POW is a really funny name for a vodka brand, because if you and your friends drink bottle to bottle, which they did, then you will be POW, which they were, and like at work. So that's where we got our name. Oh my God, don't drink a bottle with your coworkers at work. That's our flagship product. So POW is what we've been making and doing the longest. We have, in a couple of short years later, developed the Fifth Street Gin, which is the first gin in Hawaii since Prohibition. So we're really proud of that one up here. Next came the Paniolo blended whiskey. Paniolo is the Hawaiian cowboy, and you guys are actually in cowboy country right now. So yeehaw, welcome to the culture. You're in it. Those guys love a whiskey. We're gonna blend them one. And then most recently, we developed the Mahina Premium Rum. Mahina is the Hawaiian word for moonlight. It's our moon goddess, the most feminina of all the brands. That was being developed around the time Sammy Hagar was paying us a visit. So like in the past decade or so, we came up with Mahina. Today, those are the 4 brands that make us all up, and I think we got our whole crew here now. I got the right number of heads. So I want to lead us back into the distillery. The distillery is a live and active working distillery. That means things are hot and they're on wheels, and your safety is a priority. I'm going to lead you guys into a little black square. That's your safety zone. You're an adult, keep yourself in a black square or don't, but like that's just what's going to keep you safe from like burns and things. I'm going to be bouncing all around because I don't care if I get burned. Let's go this way.
Hey. What if I don't fit in the box?
So I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. What is this?
This is mash. We just have clear tops on the on these 2 tanks so that you guys can see in, but the mash tanks are pretty much uniform. It's usually all the same stuff going on.
These look like they're the different colors though. Is that just...
Just because pineapple is an organic medium, for no other reason. Okay. Yeah. Alright, well I just typically like to start at the beginning of the process and kind of work my way around in chronological order. Of course, if you guys have a question, ask away. That's what I'm here for. Pictures are absolutely fine. All of the equipment, like I said, heavily patented. We're so not offended by that. We just ask that you guys respect each other, respect the employees, getting space in your photo. Other than that, you're absolutely fine. I'm going to begin here. This is the beginning of our process. So we're going to start with just the pineapple juice. I actually don't deal with the whole fruit in here. The pineapples, they are grown right across the street, but they're going to take a little field trip. They go up on a bus into Hali'imaile. That's where Maui Wine is located. And up there they get juiced. So shout out to Maui Wine for being our processing center. They don't let anything go to waste. They distribute all of that leftover fruit, pulp, mash matter to our farm. So I've got local cows and local pigs eating all of that leftover fruit. That's why our burgers taste so good. I have no idea, actually, I'm vegetarian, but that's what I hear, so that's what I keep telling folks. And then they send the juice back down the mountain to me. That's where I actually get involved. We distribute the juice across our mash tanks. We add a little bit of sugar and a proprietary yeast strain, and then actually nature just kind of takes over from there. We really have nothing to do with the process in the next week because we're doing all of the hard work. And at around day 6, 7, I hope to be sitting terminal. That's about 15% alcohol. So what's happened in the tank at a cellular level is that my yeast cells have eaten up all the really short, really easy to manage sugar chains. And then because the Maui Gold variety of pineapple is just so high in its sugar concentration, there is going to be quite a bit of sugar left over, some really long sugar chains that are kind of too much work for my yeast to chew on. And so it's fine, they're going to leave them behind. It's even to our benefit in here because whatever the yeast don't eat, we get to taste later. So POW vodka actually finishes a little bit sweet at the back because there's all this pineapple sugar that survives fermentation. At that point, we're going to move from mash heaters. There's like a Z-shaped kind of arm in there. And the idea behind moving the heater from the outside to the inside was specifically for our Mahina Premium Rum recipe. And so I'm actually going to shift gears here for a second, forgive me. Mahina is the odd man out in here. So Mahina has a completely different, I'm pointing to her tank just out of habit, forgive me. Mahina's totally different. Whole other operation. She's the only thing that we make in here that doesn't start with pineapple. And it's not because we didn't want to start with pineapple, it's because legally we cannot start with pineapple. When we're making rum, our fermentable sugars must be cane sugar derived. So for that reason, Mahina's mash is going to be turbinado sugar, which is cane sugar derived water, same yeast strain as before, and then same deal. We're going to ferment out for about like 6-7 days, hit 15% alcohol, and then when we move from mash to strict still, there's still an abundance of that turbinado sugar left over in there. And so what we do at that point is that sugar goes in and it's going to really work with the immersion heater to create this kind of, actually not kind of, literal caramelization of that leftover sugar. So the direct contact is caramelizing all of that sugar in there. Mahina has real sugar in every bottle, which is what gives her such a smooth, like sipping experience. All the brown sugar molasses caramelization goes down really smooth, like as if the product had been aged. But it's a trickery of the senses. Mahina has never seen the inside of a barrel, but we achieved that texture totally naturally. All we did was move the heater from the outside of the still to the inside. And so that's kind of where Mahina is the odd man out. Everybody does go through the strict still though, so I do like to just give a one over at Commons works, whether it's pineapple or turbinado mash in there. As that Z-shaped arm heats up, the mash will heat up as well. Once we've hit a true boil and we're vaporizing some of those chemicals, those vapors are going to push and climb this tower. Their path is interrupted by a cooling brick up top. And then the function of the cooling brick is just to help us recondense back to a liquid, right? If it's something hot, if it's something cold, it'll crunch, it'll recondense. So it'll go from gaseous to liquid state right here, and then gravity will be my friend and carry that liquid down this arm for me. My job as the distiller is just to catch, which is the easiest part. The still is doing all the hard work. I'm going to catch this like that into a 5-gallon glass jug. And we're catching at about 65% alcohol, which is high. That's like 130 proof. That will knock the socks like clean off your body. It would be fun to drink just like that, but we're not going to. And actually, if we're making Mahina, the process does start here or stop here. Mahina is never going to touch the glass, so she's kind of the odd man out for a couple different reasons. If I was making Mahina, I'll take a couple of these 65% alcohol jugs and I'll move over into my blending tank at that point. So different mash, she never touches the glass. Straight away to the blending tank we go. We're going to blend in some fun spices and flavors, which is not a legality of rum. You don't have to spice your rum. That was a creative decision for us. In goes some cocoa and vanilla, and we're going to throw in some coconut coffee, nutmeg, pecan, the list goes on and on. There's just a ton of good stuff in Mahina. She has a very dessert-like flavor profile. And then all that's left to do is blend back with a little bit of water. I think you guys have a better view of our water tank than I do, where it's all bubbly and brewing back there. We're very lucky in the island of Maui, in Hawaii in general. We have access to clean, safe drinking water just on tap. That's an absolute privilege, and we're highly aware of that. So I'm actually pulling clean off the county line. That's just clean county water from the islands. Goes through a reverse osmosis filter, and then a quick UV treatment before it hits our little cooler over there. And then we'll pull it out of the cooler through these two long arching black hoses. Those connect to the tops of our tanks. And that's how we're going to push in water down from 65 to 40% alcohol. 40% is a little bit safer to drink. That's like 80 proof instead of 130, but it's still quite high. 80 proof is good enough for a pirate, so it's good enough for us. And we're done making rum. We can send it to our bottling line. We'll go out of the blending tank and into this pump on the ground, and the pump will pump us into the state-of-the-art bottling line. Beautiful Italian imported piece of equipment. We can do a 1,200 bottle run in just 90 minutes on that bad boy. It was a gift from our parent company in 2018, and before that we were hand bottling in here, so it's a pretty long run used to take us like 8 hours. So that's the bottling line. That's Mahina. She's the odd man out. Everybody else, Cal vodka, Fifth Street gin, Honeyolo leaded whiskey, they all begin here. Do you guys want to take a little sniff of what that smells like? Yeah. These are fully fermented out, which is why they're not bubbling anymore. I'm going to try and pan you guys, but you're welcome to step closer if you feel like it's not reaching you. It's very oozy. You can smell the alcohol in there.
Yeah, I can smell it.
Yeah. Still a ton of pineapple sugar. It's still really nice and sweet. We go from mash tank to strict still, then from strict still to glass still. The glass still is the real superstar piece of equipment. This is why we're all actually here. So we're working in glass for the same reason that Ladler is made out of glass. The idea is that distilling is an awful lot of chemistry. And when we conduct our chemistry, we hope to do that in a non-reactive, non-porous vessel. So traditional materials like copper and stainless steel, they're really highly reactive and they are porous, and what that leads to that means that it must be colorless, odorless, and flavorless. And so if you're making a vodka and you've got residue building up in your still, like you're bound to taste it in final product. How is special? We really want to protect that sweet flavor note at the back. By moving over into glass, we've solved the residue buildup issue, so check on that one. But it actually caused a whole new set of issues by moving over into glass. So with glass, we really lose the structural integrity of our traditional materials, which is why, in addition to this particular still being a weird material, it's also a weird shape and it's a weird size. It's pretty outlandish. This tower is so strange. This doesn't make any sense. This tower is so short. This is so tiny for a still. A traditional still's tower would be so tall that it would probably go through my ceiling, and it would be wider around the base, and you would have all these little plates stacked up in there, but I've lost the structural integrity of my traditional materials, and so I literally cannot go taller. And that creates this whole funky conundrum, because what we use the tower for, the function there is to scrub out volatilities and impurities. So before I bottle, I need to scrub away things like esters and turpentines. These are things that, like residue buildup, they won't kill you, but they don't taste very good. And honestly, the hangover the next day is going to make you want to die if you didn't scrub the turpentines out. So we really should try and get that stuff out of there before we sip on it. And normally in a big, huge tower, I have the space and the time in the room to do that. Typically what a tower does is the vapors climb up into the tower, they're scrubbed when they hang out with the plates, scrubbing action, then they kind of move and they push through. They hang out in these little waiting rooms, and when the vapors get hot enough, they move and they push through the next plate, and so on and so forth. And so as our product is climbing through the tower, we are obtaining a more pure, more clean product to sip on, which is kind of why in the distilling community, there's this sort of like, how tall is your tower, like thing that you can do, or like how many plates do you distill with? There's a little competition you can have. I don't really get to participate in the competition because my tower is so obscenely short. This is nonsensical for a still. But what our original master distiller designed to kind of compensate for how tiny the tower had to be was he chose not to scrub with plates. So in here we scrub with surgical grade stainless steel shavings with the intention of increasing the scrubbing surface area in the tower. It's a very wordy way of saying he decided that he could still scrub with Brillo pads, and it turned out to be a more efficient model of scrubbing. So in here in his tower, we don't waste any tower real estate on the waiting room anymore. It's all scrubbing action now. As my vapors climb up into the tower, they get scrubbed every which way, all the way up to the top. They hit a cooling rig up there. I'm still just cooling it down with water. They recondense back to a liquid. As the liquid is dripping back down the tower, it's also getting scrubbed down in liquid form. And then we bounce back and forth like that for about an hour. That's our reflux process. We're ready to collect after that. And so we would just go up these little steps, turn that little black knob up at the tippy top. You guys are catching it in action today. We're going to first flow down the bubbly living arm, and then down the teeny tiny little box tube. Same deal as before, we catch it to a 5-gallon glass jug. But on this side, we're going to catch it like 95% alcohol, so quite high. That would be 190 proof. That'll like send your socks to the moon. We can't drink that. It tastes amazing. It tastes like all that beautiful pineapple sugar that survived fermentation, and then over here it got caramelized, on the side it got all nice and cleaned up. So coming off the line, that's actually pretty sweet on your palate, but we can't drink it yet. We do need to make a couple of safety cuts, and then we're going to blend back with water, because 95% alcohol would be insane. It'd be fun, but you can't drink that. So I say cuts because distillers are so cute, cutesy in their language. They're all poets, these guys. So because you catch family, but their flavor profiles are different. That's why they're different products. So this is our flavor profile for our gin. I'll pass this around so you guys can take a little sniff and a little whiff.
I'm sorry, what is that?
That's our botanical blend for the gin brand. So gin and vodka, very closely related. Gin has one additional step to vodka. Vodka is smooth and clean. Gin is going to have a botanical blend that features juniper berry. Traditionally, gin is like 4, maybe 5 botanicals. It was a ton of really medicinal, flavor-forward kinds of flavors. And the juniper berry content is legally what gives gin its status. Our 5th Street gin was designed like 20 years ago, and at that point, the legal parameters had really opened up. You could put kind of whatever you wanted in there, as long as the majority of your blend was still
So does
juniper
it
berry.
just filter through that?
So we're going to do a 24-hour soak in here.
Oh, okay.
So this is just a little sample mix so that you guys can get an idea of what we're working with. When it's time to do a real infusion, I'm going to fill this bag with my botanical mix, and then I just pour my ethanol over the bag, and we soak for about a day. When my distillers come back, we've got rich color and flavor and aroma that's been released into the ethanol. And the only problem there is that traditionally gin would be a colorless spirit, so I do need to kind of clean up the color before I bottle. How we're going to do that is actually what you guys are catching in action. So we did the 24-hour soak, bags and ethanol went back into the still, and now we've reran the reflux process. That's going to scrub the color away, but short. So like a 20-minute reflux instead of an hour. If I went that long, I would actually scrub everything out again. It would be vodka all over again. In here, I'm just looking to scrub for like 15-20 minutes to get rid of the color, but I want the aroma and flavor in there. That's what gives gin its legal status, is the juniper berry flavor. And so now we're collecting. Same way that we did last time, off the bubbly clean arm, down the teeny tiny copper tube. I already cut off heads and tails. I'm not worried about that in this run. Whatever it sends over, I'm going to collect. I'm still catching at 95% ethanol, and then I move over into my blending tank. We went back to 45% alcohol instead of 40. 5th Street gin is going to be set a little bit higher at 90 proof instead of 80. For no other reason than gin has a different legal parameter, has to sit a little bit hotter, but once I've got the water content in there and we've scrubbed all the color away, we get successfully made gin, you can send it to your bottling line. In the US, the legal parameters have kind of shifted where previously gin had to be a colorless spirit. I believe that that's why 5th Street is clear, but I'm hearing all over the country that folks are making purple gin. They're copying the Canadians, so we're really like having a lot of fun with color in gin these days. Now that's what other distillers are. And that takes care of 5th Street. That's everything that we're doing in there with clear spirits. That just leaves the Paniolo blended whiskey left. Paniolo is actually soon to be discontinued, and so I don't know how much we're going to be talking about it in the future, but you guys are here on a really good day where I still have it in my tasting room for us to sit and try, so I'm going to tell you how we make it. Paniolo is the Hawaiian cowboy. He's about half vaquero, which is from Mexico, and he's about half Hawaiiana from the islands. It's true of the real Paniolos, and it's also true of our recipe. It's about half. So we're going to start with a bourbon base that we are not producing. This is produced at Heaven Hills Distillery. Heaven Hills is the last family-owned and operated bourbon distillery in the country. They're located in the bourbon region of the U.S., Kentucky. They have access to commercial corn. These are things I don't have. And so they can really successfully and really comfortably make a bourbon. They're going to make a really young bourbon, though. So it's only going to be 3 years in the barrel, and then they de-barrel and they ship that out to us. And when we receive it, we're going to blend and lock the rest of the aging process. So bourbon is a very coveted liquor. It's hard to make, and its legal status, therefore, is very protected. You actually legally cannot blend with bourbon. If you do put something into your bourbon, they take the bourbon status away. It's now a blended whiskey. We're very okay with the legality of that because the cowboys, the Paniolos, they love a blended whiskey and they love a bourbon. We don't care what our status is as long as we're putting out a good product. And so when we receive this really young, really fiery bourbon, it could be the best bourbon in the world by the most successful distillers of all time. And the thing that we're doing in there with clear spirits, that just leaves the Paniolo blended whiskey left. Paniolo is actually soon to be discontinued, and so I don't know how much we're going to be talking about it in the future, but you guys are here on a really good day where I still have it in my tasting room for us to sit and try, so I'm going to tell you how we make it. Paniolo is the Hawaiian cowboy. He's about half vaquero, which is from Mexico, and he's about half Hawaiiana from the islands. It's true of the real Paniolos, and it's also true of our recipe. It's about half all of the beautiful bourbon flavor up front. Now you can taste the gentle smoke. You can taste the butterscotch body throughout. We're going to finish with the same signature sweetness at the back that we would associate with cow. And so all that's left to do is blend that with a little bit of water. I'm going to send my concoction of like baby bourbon and pineapple distillate into the blending tank. We blend that to that same 40% alcohol to consume. We just made Hali'imaile. I sent it through the bottling line. They delivered it to my tasting room. We all get to go sip and try while it's still virtually available. And we're truly in no hurry. If we want to start heading that way, I'll guide us. If we had a question or wanted to like snap a photo of